Good morning to all of us, to all of you who are interested in envisioning sustainability, who believe in environmental sustainability and justice as a cause that we can contribute to. And today, with the modern computer and the processing power that is in our hands, we can make significant differences in making a better world. So let's start out today by taking a part of one's hometown and visualizing what it could look like and see how we can use several technologies, starting with Blender 3D and then moving on to Unity to make a better future, starting at home. And what we'll start with then is we will start by opening Blender, which is the program of preference for the work that I do. I'm using Blender 2.79b. There's going to be a 2.8 out soon. The first thing I do when I'm starting to envision sustainability, sustainability using Blender is I select everything by hitting A and delete everything that's on the screen, so I have a blank screen. The next thing that I do is for the purposes of people who may be watching, I try to turn on Screencast keys by clicking on this plus sign, or you can hit the N key and call up the properties window, and it says Screencast keys here and then start display. And when I click on that, then you see over here a display, and I can change it from left to right, and I can make it into text, and then everything I do, every key I press, right mouse, left mouse, shows up there, and you can have a box and have it be a dark box or have a colored box. So maybe it's a little easier to see when we do that and brighten it up a little bit, then you can see that makes it more obvious. Now if you're wondering how do I get this on my on your computer, then you want to go to File and you want to go to User Preferences, and that is where you want to have 3D View Screencast keys enabled, and then you have to start display over here. You may not have that because it doesn't come with Blender. So if that's the case, then it's an install add-on from File, and you want to find a place where you can install it. And so you can, for example, go to just any tab of Google and type in Screencast keys Blender 2.79, and then the Blender wiki will come up, and then there will be a version of the Python script right here, along with instructions of how to set it up. But you click on that, and then there's this code, and you don't have to be able to read the code. Select the code, copy the code, go to Notepad, paste the code into Notepad, and save this as a .py file. So you can call it whatever you like, but Screencast keys is good, and then py, not text, and then find an appropriate place for it. I'm going to put mine in Blender Tutorials and put it in the PCGS Tutorials folder, where I'm going to create a new folder that is called Add-Ons for Blender. And then I will save it in there, and it is in there. Okay? It's a Python script. So then when we go back to here, you could go to User Preferences. Where did that go? It's gone over here somewhere. Okay. You can go to User Preferences and you can say Install Add-on from File, and then find your file, which is the local disk, Blender Tutorials, and then PCGS Tutorials Add-ons for Blender. There it is right there. By the way, you should probably, that particular folder, any folder that you're going to use, you'll want to make it easy to access by dragging this down and bookmarking it. So Blender Tutorials folder, PCGS Tutorials, just go to bookmark, and now that one is easier to access. Anyway, take that, double click on it, and it comes in, and if I then type in here screen, you see I have 3D View Screencast keys, and I click on it, and it comes up. If it's unclicked, you won't see it down here on the right, but if it is clicked, you'll see it here. You can start display. and it goes. There's another program that you're going to need for this tutorial that is that we use for this. So let's close that up, and it's called Blender GIS. And the way you find that is the same way with the wonders of Google. Put Blender GIS, and you will see this GitHub from Dobbs, and click on there. And there is the Blender GIS. It has a whole bunch of tutorials on how to use Blender GIS. It has base maps, and then there's click on that, and it gives you how to use the base maps. You can go back from there. If you look at STRM download, which is for topographical maps, there isn't much there. But if you look at the OpenStreetMap import, there's a whole page on how to use OpenStreetMap. So you can learn a lot by following these tutorials. Full documentation is here, and it has over here everything you need to know about using Blender GIS. To install Blender GIS, in this case, you don't have to make your own Python file. It's already here in this zip file. So you download the zip from Clone or Download. You download it. It'll turn here as a zip file. Show in folder. I'm going to see I have it several times here because I've done this over and over. I'm going to cut this out of here. I'm going to go into my local disk and into Blender tutorials and into PCGS tutorials. By the way, this is another thing that you'll probably want to do is put this into a quick access pin so that it's there for you, so you can get at that fairly easily. Add on Blender, and now paste this in here. And there it is. Don't unzip it. You don't have to. So when you go then to Blender and you go back up to your user preferences, then you'll see I already have it. So I'm going to click on it and remove it. Boom, it's gone. Now I'm going to re-add it for you, install, and there it is. And you just click on the zip and it will unpack it, and then you click on it to enable it, and you'll notice that when I click here, a tab appears here, and if I unclick it, then that tab disappears. So that is my Blender GIS add-on that now is appearing in my tabs. And for the tabs, you have tools, create for creating different objects, relations, animation, physics, grease pencil, which we'll get to later, and GIS. Okay, so we're going to be using the GIS, or Geographical Information System, add-on with Blender, so that we don't have to use QGIS or ArcView GIS or any other program to get our information in. The first thing we're going to do is hit 7, number pad 7, so that makes it go into top view. Number pad 1 is front view. Number pad 3 is right view. It's the views, if we go like that. That's user perspective. Number 2, you can move around with these number keys. As you can see, if I hit number 4, I spin around. Hit number 6, I spin around. Hit number 9, I really spin around. Hit number 7, I go to the top view. So 7 is what I want, the top view, but I don't want it to be top perspective. I want orthogonal. That makes it straight, looking up and down, looking straight down. Otherwise, the perspective is kind of off. It's what our two eyes see, and I want it to be as a two-dimensional being would see it. So looking straight down, I'm using the scroll wheel to move in and out. It tells you. All right, middle mouse. So that's the screen that I'm going to project on my base map. Go to Preferences here and make sure that you pick a good cache folder. Once again, I'm going to use, if I pull this down, I'm going to use my bookmarks, which is PCGS Tutorials, and I'm going to make a new folder for this and call this Blender GIS temp files, just like I have my Camtasia temp files, and click on that and accept that. That's where the cache is going to go. You need to have that done. And the other thing I'm going to do is go to File, and for temporary for this also, I'm going to set that same file. And that way, everything is going to go on my external hard drive where I want it to go. All right. And that's all I think I have to do for that, except save the user settings. Okay. Now, I can start getting maps. So the first thing I do is on geodata, I click on base map, and I like to use Google Satellite as my first thing to see where I'm going. Say OK, and it says downloading and map view, and there's the map of the world. Now you can zoom in and zoom out and do all that great stuff, but I want to go to a specific location, which is where I grew up, which is by hitting G, go to, I'm going to type in the address because we can do that these days because everything's been geocoded, 150 Draper Lane, Dobbs, Ferry. Now I could also put in New York, but it's not necessary because there's only 150 Draper Lane, Dobbs, Ferry in New York. If I typed in 150 Draper Lane, it takes me to somewhere in England. So I'm using Dobbs Ferry to let it know after the comma. And my zoom level that I like to zoom to is about 18. And then I hit OK. And it's going to take me magically right to my apartment building. There it is. This is where I grew up. Right there, 150 Draper Lane, apartment 3B right here. That would be my roof there, and that would be my porch. It's where my mother still lives. And I zoom out by using the scroll wheel. And I want not only to have my apartment in this, but also Mercy College, which is where I teach environmental sustainability and justice, and where I worked for many years. So there we have Mercy College, and I want to make sure that I also include the train station, which is there. There's the train station in Dobbs Ferry, and my apartment building is, where did my apartment, there they are. There's my apartment building, and there's Mercy College. And once you have the aspect of what you want, there's the Hudson River, and there's the golf course. So you take the part of the landscape that you want to be able to walk around in, and for me, from childhood on, I used to leave the apartment and I used to go walking through the woods here, past Mercy College, go through the golf course, go up here and go to this lake where there was a castle. So that's part of my historic wanderings as a child, and then down to the train station to go to Manhattan. Let me move it up a little bit because there was also this, this park over here. So this is going toward Hastings. So that's my childhood locations and barbecues over here on the Sawmill River Parkway. So take the places that are of interest to you and then hit E to capture that. Now once you've captured this background image, it's setting a location parameter from the map from which to get actual data. And to get the data, one of the first things that I want to do is to get what's known as a NASA topographical map with a digital elevation map, or a DEM. I want to use that. So I'm going to click on that. Oh, and notice please that it did create a Google satellite over here in your scene. It did create a Google satellite map so that when I turn it, there it is. That's turned. All right. So once again, 7. So we have a layer that we've created. Oh, another thing I should point out is you do want to go into user preferences and turn on in the add-ons. Let me get rid of this. Type in image, and there should be import export images as planes. That's how I got that plane. So make sure that that is checked. That comes with it. Okay. All right. So that made the plane out of the image. Okay. So now that I have my my topographical area, I want to get this SRTM or DEM, digital elevation map, from NASA, and it takes its time, and then it creates this interesting looking plane which you can see sits above or under the other plane, and you can see as I do this that it is not even. So when I put the Hudson River, let me zoom in here, you see the Hudson River over here. If I put the black part, which is the Hudson River, and match it up, you'll notice that it starts occluding other parts of the map. And that is because this is a digital elevation map. It's a topographical map that actually shows the hills of that part of New York, how that goes up and down in the valley. And if you hit the 1 key, you can get a better look at how it goes up and down. Hit the 3 key. But in the 7 key, when we're looking down, you can see, and that's at sea level. So I've just about brought it to the point where the Hudson River sea level is there, and that's geographical information. That information is important for getting slope in there. It's a contour map is literally what this is, because satellites have taken pictures and recorded elevations. Now, it's not very detailed because this is a large piece of map, but it is good topographical information. So with that, the next thing that I do, of course you want to save. So let's save as, and let me make a new folder for Blender files and save as a Blender file. And let's just call this Dobbs, Ferry, New York, and save it. And now that's saved. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to make a copy of this because I don't want anything to go wrong with this. So you highlight things by, well, you hit A, it deselects everything. You right click on it, it selects it. So we know we've just selected that. And then it also turns white over here. If I selected A for everything, you'd see a darker orange line over the light orange line, and that would indicate that more than one thing was selected. So hit A to deselect, and then click on just what you want to select, and then we have it selected. And then I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate it, and then I'm going to hit M to move that duplicate on another track underneath, which is this track here. So this track has a copy of that information. This track has both that and the original map. And I'm going to select the original map too, just that, and you see it turns white here. And this original map I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to hit M, and I'm going to move that on its own track. So I've isolated it, so I have this image on a plane. I've got the DEM. Now I can start working with this without too much worry that I might mess something up. All right, so I'm selecting this again. Going up, now it says SRTM is selected. I like to rename things as I go along. So this is the digital elevation map, or DEM, of Dobbs Ferry. And this underneath it is the export of the Google Sat map. I'm going to call this Dobbs, let's see, Sat Dobbs Ferry, just so I can distinguish these. Oh, and the other thing that's nice to do if these are of import to you is put an underscore in front so that they appear at the top. And let me do that also for Sat Dobbs Ferry. All right. Just things you do to make things easier for yourself. Okay. That keeps them in sort of like the same place. All right, so now I've selected the DEM. I go to 7 again and make sure I'm in top ortho. And now I go to get OpenStreetMap data, get OSM, get OpenStreetMap data, and I want to get the buildings, whatever buildings are available, and I want the elevation from this object, and the object I want it from is the DEM. And then I'm going to separate those objects and say OK, and it'll try to find whatever objects or buildings have already been put into Google Maps. So give it a few minutes. Okay, and you see then all these buildings. Now, the buildings are all there, and you see that they have been contoured to match the hills, which is kind of cool. Except for down here off the map, they kind of fall literally off the map because there's no elevation information, and that's okay. What we're going to do is get rid of all those. It's kind of cool though. I think I'm going to keep those in a separate file, all the rest of the city here. What I'm going to do is deselect, and then I've got to bind all of these together. See, they're all crazy. So many, if you look over here, tons and tons of building information, including the Drath House, which we could zoom to by clicking on it, or Dobbs Ferry Post Office. And then if I hit the number pad key, there's the Dobbs Ferry Post Office right there, sitting on the hill on Main Street. There's a lot of cool information there. In fact, before we clean it up, let me show you that information, because you have no idea where that post office is and if it's even put right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to populate the DEM with the satellite image. And the way to do that is to right-click on it to select it. And let's see, it should be selected up here too. There it is. DEM of Dobbs Ferry is highlighted. And then I'm going to go to Get Open Street Map. No, not yet. I'm going to go up here to UV Editing. And here where it says User Perspective, in this window, I'm going to hit 7 for top, 5 for top ortho. There we are. Oops. Top ortho. Okay. I'm going to then go out of object mode into edit mode, which is that. I'm going to select everything in edit mode, and it calls it up over here, and I'm going to yes, sorry, we're going to come back here one moment, because the first thing I need to do is to fix this, and I just ruined it. Okay, I need to back out of this. Don't do what I just did, because it just flattened, it completely flattened the DEM, leaving our buildings floating up in space. So I'm glad we actually saw that, because I flattened it and I shouldn't have when I went into edit. So let me use Control Z and back out of that and hope it comes back. I don't know how many backouts I have to do. No, it doesn't seem to want to. The DEM of Dobbs Ferry has been flattened. I guess I did too many manipulations. There's no data to redo. Well, that is why it is good to have. I'm still in edit mode. That's probably why. Now, all right, it's back. My contours are back. Yep, my contours are back. So what we have to do is collapse the form. Here's what happens. If you go to this little wrench thing over here on the right, the DEM, you'll see that it has in it a DEM modifier and then a DEM 0.001 modifier that has strengths. And the strength is now set to 1. And if I go like this, then you'll see I can really exaggerate the mountains going down to the river. And that is exaggerating digital elevation information. You see that, right? So let's set this back to 1 for its strength. So we can, number lock, there we go. Now that's how it came in, and the buildings do match up with that. So now what we're going to do is apply, but we're going to apply from the top to the bottom. So apply the DEM, boom. Apply the DEM 0.001 texture with that strength, boom. Now it is fixed as a mesh, and you can see that if you hit tab, you can see the mesh. Okay, well that looks like that's White Plains way over there. Cool, the city of White Plains came in. That's nifty. All right, So now we have a mesh. Now what we can do is click on that, get out of edit mode, into object mode, select that mesh. That is it. Make sure you've selected only that mesh. There it is, select it. All right, now we're going to go back to the UV editing. So now when we look at the map and we see that the buildings are have picked up the elevations that are necessary, we want to know, are they properly placed? And one way to do that is to take the contour map, or the DEM, and turn the view icon off. I renamed it while I was on pause for 01 Dam Dobbs Ferry, so it would show up. The underscore doesn't put it right at the top, but 01 does. Now that we have all these buildings in here, we've got tons of buildings in here, including, for example, if we go down the White Plains Library, the Dobbs Ferry Diner. So when you click on Dobbs Ferry Diner, there it is. And you need to know, is that diner right there, there's the building, is it sitting right on the map for the Dobbs Ferry Diner? And now it's all the way upside down. So how would we determine that? And the way that we determine that, again, looking at the top view, is we can turn off the view of this and then look and see, are these buildings matching up? And it seems that they are. Like there's Mercy College, and if I twist, you see that they're floating because I put their elevations based on the elevation map, the DEM, but the buildings are in fact floating over where they should be. Okay, and we want to make sure that they stay in that position when we do our projection. And there's White Plains over there. So here's what we're going to do first. We are going to also turn off or hide this map. And that, for doing that, you hit, let me turn on Screencast keys again so you can see that. So I'm going to hit H when I've selected this map, and it disappears. If I want to get it back, I use Alt-H, brings everything back, and then I can turn it off again here. That's another way to do it. Also, if I want to find where that is, it should be highlighted when I click on it. And then, where is that? It's hidden in here somewhere. So you can go to search, I'm sorry, to view, and do view show active, and there's that map. And so let me rename that. You saw me rename it earlier on when, but I had a computer crash and I had to restart, so I did a pause. So there's 01 in there. That brings it up to the top. And now I want to hide that, which I can either do by hitting the H key or clicking on the I. That enables me to now select all these buildings and do a Shift D to copy them and then move them with, it's taking a long time for that data. It says not responding. There's a lot of data in this set, so be patient with it. I'll put it on pause till it, okay, we're back. So now I hit M. I should be able to hit M. It's not doing anything. It's an enormous amount of data, but I did make a copy of it. M, okay, now put it on another layer. Let it copy that data over. It takes some time with a huge data set like this. There we go. So that's on this layer here. But lordy, it's gonna, if you use this much data for all these buildings, the whole city of White Plains is there, which I don't need, then yeah, you're gonna have a lot of issues with that. Okay, so there's the city of White Plains isolated. There's the isolated on this layer, the isolated map. There's the isolated digital elevation map. And here's where we have everything all together. But because it's so huge, as you can see, I don't want anything outside of this map. So I'm going to hit the B key for selection, and I'm going to select all this. It turns orange, and I'm going to hit X and delete it and let it take its time because it's deleting an enormous amount of data. An enormous amount of data. Well, it took a while, so I'm back. Just to get rid of White Plains, that enormous data set. I also want to get rid of this data here, which is outside of the picture, because that's a lot of data that needs, like the stuff over in New Jersey. We don't need that. So again, I'll select with the B and hit X and delete. And then I'm going to select everything down here in the Hastings side that I don't need and hit B. Did that select, hit X, get rid of that data. And as you can see, the buildings are memory intense. And the same thing with all of this extraneous data up by Ardsley. Get rid of that. Okay, so now we've gotten rid of all the extraneous buildings. Looks like Google maps the stuff. It has some algorithm that takes the information and turns it into buildings. And what you're seeing here is the original base map that wasn't yet turned into a texture. The DEM is here, and the satellite image is there. And if I use the satellite, then I can twist it and see that everything is sort of floating above the right place. And looks like the train station down here, but the map is flat. There's the Chart House restaurant that I used to go to with my parents. The map is flat, and there's the library. And if you click on the library here, and you go and look at it, and you sort of zoom in on the library, if you scroll down here, it should show up. But where? Walgreens, these scars, it should be, it just takes a while to scroll through all these things. Irvington, Hastings, Half Moon Bay. There it is, Dobbs Ferry Public Library. See, I recognize that from my childhood. And this is Half Moon Bay, so if I go down to Half Moon, there it is. And what you can do is, it's fun, you can click around and see what buildings are, like Mercy College. If we click on that, you can go to View and just show active, but it doesn't have a name, so I need to name it. This is the Mercy College Rotunda. And then this building here should show up as Mercy College. If we go to View, Show Active, there it is, Mercy College. That's the main hall sitting over there. If you know what the buildings are, like this is that Palisades where they have the art classes. So this is Palisades Art Center. And you can start annotating these as data layers. That's what's really fun. Okay, and the train station, of course, should show up as the train station, except that it doesn't have a name here, so we can put in here ourselves Dobbs Ferry Train Station. All right. I do notice, however, that my apartment building doesn't have a building at all, and we'll get to that in a few seconds, and we'll actually build that apartment building. Or maybe, actually, let's build it now before we turn this into 3 dimensions, because that way we'll get more accuracy using the top ortho view.